الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. As we continue with the explanation of Hamawiyyah or Fataawa Hamawiyyah al-Kubra by the great Imam Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abd al-Halim ibn Abd al-Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimashqi rahimahullah rahmatul wasi'ah wa jazahullahu anna wa an al-Muslimin khair al-jazaa. As we continue in the first chapter, rather we almost completed the first chapter of this book. This has almost been finalized. I'm at the end right here. That's all that's left. As we continue 7:37 p.m. Wednesday, September the 27th, 2023, which coincides with the Islamic calendar, or Islamic date, rather, the 13th of Rabi' al-Awwal, Yawm al-Thulatha, what technically is Yawm al-Khamis or Laylat al-Khamis, is the evening of Laylat al-Khamis, technically the year 1445, after the migration of our Prophet ﷺ. We've continued, as Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah was speaking about an individual who's upon the way of tasawwuf. And we talked about numerous occasions of why he utilized their statements in order to use it as a proof against his adversaries, against those who oppose the Kitab and Sunnah. So you'll find that from those of the past, from the earlier people who are upon tasawwuf, and like we talked about, the earlier establishers or the earlier scholars of tasawwuf were not upon what the people were upon today, the different types of perverted beliefs and ideologies of tasawwuf of today, which have become something totally gross or grotesque, something that is totally in opposition, as it became extremely wicked today. But you'll find that those who are upon that way earlier, you'll find that some of them were truly given knowledge of the Kitab and Sunnah, in which you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam utilized their statement as proofs against their own followers. So let's continue as we spoke about last class or last week, everyone. Well, we said, number one, you'll find the individual Abu Abdullah al-Harith ibn Ismail ibn Asad al-Muhasibi. You'll find that he mentioned about the affairs of the speech of Allah, or rather the names and attributes of Allah. He has a book, Shaykh al-Islam entitled it Fahm al-Quran, the understanding of the Quran. You'll find that Al-Harith ibn Ismail al-Muhasibi had a book called Fahm al-Quran, the understanding of the Quran. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam cited his statement by saying, of course, this is what we said last class. قال في كلامه على الناسخ والمنسوخ. We already talked about the affairs that from the different knowledges of our religion that one needs to have, which is very important. It's an affair called nasikh wal mansukh. Nasikh means something that abrogates. Mansukh is that which is abrogated. And I talked about this last class, and I don't want to speak about it too much because we want to take advantage of the time. But the affairs of nasikh and mansukh is a type of knowledge which is also very important. Because if one reads the book of Allah and come upon certain ayat, and if they don't have knowledge of these matters, you'll find that certain affairs they will embark upon thinking that it is permissible or detested. For example, the affair of khamr, of intoxicants, as we know, that was a gradual process until it became totally forbidden. In the earliest stages of the religion, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the earliest stages of revelation rather, everyone, the earliest stages of revelation, when it was being revealed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have revealed the verses that were more important to fundamentally making the people sound, and developing their knowledge of Allah, and focusing on the detrimental, important affairs such as polytheism and monotheism, and having the people distinguish between the two, because we know that those are the greatest of all affairs, because those are the sins that Allah will never forgive if one's to die upon. The affairs that when one has a matter or a discrepancy in their belief, that is greater than intoxicants. That's greater. However, the affair became in the earlier stages of revelation where it was what everyone detested. It was detested. And it was a gradual process until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, once the revelation became well grounded and settled in the hearts of the people, then it became totally what everyone forbidden. It became forbidden until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayats concerning those matters. So the ayats that were revealed in regards to khamr being detested were what everyone abrogated. It was abrogated. So and what abrogated it is what the other verses that Allah sent down in regards to what? Abrogating it and making the final ruling being totally what? Forbidden. So those are and there's other ayats that are similar to that. And that is the knowledge of what they call nasikh wal mansukh. What abrogates and what was what? Abrogated. However, that's not the topic that Al-Harith ibn Ismail al-Muhasibi is mentioning here. That's not what he's mentioning here. He's mentioning this to say nasikh wal mansukh does not apply on the affairs of akhbar, meaning the affairs of what Allah revealed, for example, pertaining to what happened in the past or what will happen in the future, or the affairs of the unseen. Like, for example, Allah revealed, informing that there another creation called the jinn. Those affairs are settled. Nothing can change that. For example, the existence of the jinn, and then now they disappear, they don't exist no more. The affair of nasikh wal mansukh does not apply on those matters. So that's what he's mentioning. However, in addition to that, he's also mentioning everyone that especially these matters of nasikh wal mansukh does not apply on the names and attributes of Allah. Just to sum it up, that's what he's mentioning. Meaning, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always and will continue to have the characteristic of complete sight. Meaning Allah sees everything. And there's not a time where that affair will change. Meaning those affairs are what everyone? Permanent. Ahsant. It's permanent, it's settled, it's established. Meaning those affairs are not susceptible to what everyone? Nasikh wal mansukh.
No change.
It's not exactly. It's not susceptible to what? It being abrogated and then something abrogated it.
Right.
So that's what he said, and this is what we mentioned from last class. It's clear?
No.
But he goes on to say, in another matter, that Shaykh al-Islam is mentioning about the statement of Harith ibn Ismail al-Muhasibi, where Shaykh al-Islam says إذا أن قال, he's citing al-Muhasibi statement here, he's mentioning it. As he goes on to say, وكذلك لا يجوز إذا أخبر أن صفاته حسنة عليا أن يخبر بعد ذلك أنها دنية سفلى فيصف نفسه بأنه جاهل ببعض الغيب بعد أن أخبر أنه عالم به وأنه لا يبصر ما قد كان ولا يسمع الأصوات. We already just mentioned this. He's just giving different examples now. ولا قدرة له ولا يتكلم ولا الكلام كان منه وأنه تحت الأرض لا على العرش. He said it's not permissible if Allah is informed that His characteristics are lofty, are beautiful, complete and lofty, that He informs after that they become now change, or they become lowly, and what? Incomplete. What does this type of knowledge, if a Muslim learns it, how does it have an impact on his belief? If one understands what he's saying here, you will know that Christianity is false. Because you'll find that the belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala became in human form necessitates that some of His characteristics became incomplete. Such as, after Allah became complete, he became a human form where he started to what? Where he needed to be breastfed, or he needed his diaper to be changed, or he needed to sleep, or he needed to eat, So after Allah's characteristics were complete, it's as if the Christians are trying to say Allah rendered himself incomplete in order to guide the people, which is absolute nonsense. Allah does not become in a state of completeness, then in order to rightly guide his creation, he becomes incomplete. You understand, everyone? So we're trying to correlate to show everyone how these matters impact our daily lives, especially in the most vital and important of all affairs, which is what? Which is our belief, your aqidah, your creed, no doubt. Our aqidah. So that's what he's mentioning here. Or, for example, he goes on to say, فَيَصِفُ نَفْسَهُ بِأَنَّهُ جَاهِلٌ بِبَعْضِ الْغَيْبِ, or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is ignorant of some of the unseen. After Allah has informed that he's all knowledgeable of the unseen. As we know, that comes in the Quran. How many ayahs do we hear recited? عَالِمُ الْغَيْبِ وَالشَّهَادَةِ, that Allah is all knowledgeable of what is seen and what is not seen, or what is apparent and what is what? I'm sorry.
What is covered.
And what is what? Concealed, or what is not seen. Also, that Allah, أَنَّهُ لَا يُبْصِرُ, that Allah does not see what is, or he doesn't hear voices, or he does not have no ability, or he does not speak, or there wasn't any speech from him, meaning from his book that we revealed in his book, which is also considered his speech. وَأَنَّهُ تَحْتَ الْأَرْضِ, or that he's under the earth after he has clearly established that he is above the throne. جَلَّ وَعَلَا عَنْ ذَلِكَ. You understand, everyone? No. So this type of belief will teach the Muslim the most vital and most important of all matters, that when he hears it, he will know that it's what? Falsehood, such as that Allah is ignorant of certain affairs of the unseen, meaning certain knowledges. Also, you'll find in the Bible similar to that the Bible shows that Allah is not knowledgeable of certain affairs until they happen. For example, about what happened with the people of Noah, of Nuh, that Allah regretted. What does regret mean? It means there's an incompletion of knowledge, that he was not aware or have knowledge of the results that was going to come as a result. Allah was all aware of what was going to be the casualties and the results of the people of the earth once he had decreed that it be flooded. We do not say Allah regretted, because regret also leads to what, everyone? Incompleteness or deficiency in other characteristics, such as him being complete in all knowledge and all awareness. Is it clear? So that was affairs of the unseen, that Allah did not know that what was going to be a result. So he regretted it. I will never do that again. You understand, everyone? So these are the type of benefits that when we read them, that will instill in the belief of the Muslim that those matters that when you hear it, you know that it's absolute what? Falsehood. And in addition to what you hear in the Bible, that God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, then he rested. Rest necessitates what for everyone? Deficiency in ability. That he needs to rejuvenate. He became tired. That's also in the Bible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refuted that in the Quran. It's as if Allah is refuting the falsehood that was ascribed to him in the final revelation, which is the Quran. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, he said, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ وَمَا بَيْنَهُمَا فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ وَمَا مَسَّنَا بِاللُّغُوبِ. As Allah says in Surah Qaf. He said, we indeed have created the heavens and the earth, and that which is between it within 6 days, and nothing touched us of exhaustion. Nothing touched us of exhaustion in what? Weariness, exhaustion, being tired. All those affairs, it's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is refuting those what? Those false atrocities that have been ascribed to him in his final revelation. Is it clear, everyone? There's other things in the Bible that shows that Allah is deficient in his characteristics. There's a lot of them. That's just some examples. But these are the affairs that you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam is mentioning here, citing those who are upon the earlier stages of tasawwuf. So it wasn't that he was just refuting the kuffar. He was also refuting the Sufis, those who are upon the way of tasawwuf. Because we believe, especially today, you'll find that a lot of them believe that Allah became merged with the creation, or they became unified with the creation. Especially those who are deeply engrossed in Sufiya believe these type of matters. So you'll find that it's as if he's directing that speech towards them to say, this is your earlier scholars who are from the establishers of this way. And they're not saying this. They're not saying what you are saying. Because these scholars believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and attributes are what? Perfect. And that they're established and they're not susceptible to what? Change. Nor be what? Abrogated. Is it clear? Right, so he goes on to say, let's keep going. Now there's another knowledge that he's about to elaborate on. There's another knowledge that he's about to speak about that's very important. So if everyone understands that point, we can move on. Is it clear? It's clear. Right, so let's keep going. فإذا عرفت ذلك واستيقنته عدمت ما يجوز عليه النسخ وما لا يجوز. He said, if you know this and you have certainty of it, you will know and have knowledge of what is permissible to be abrogated and what is not. Is it clear? We just explained that. We just clarified that, right, everyone? Yes. Right, so let's keep going. Now we're going to go into something else. فَإِن تَلَوْتَ آيَةً فِي ظَاهِرِ تِلَاوَتِهَا تَحْسَبُ أَنَّهَا نَاسِخَةٌ لِبَعْضِ أَخْبَارِهِ كَقَوْلِهِ عَنْ فِرْعَوْنَ. He said, now we're going to get into something else. Not only the knowledge of nasikh wa mansukh is important. There's another knowledge that's important that he's about to make the people aware of. For example, the ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Fir'aun, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah in Surah Yunus. He said that when the state of him drowning reached him, he said, I believe. What would one, if they did not have proper knowledge, we're going to talk about and explain this verse, that if one did not have proper knowledge, they would think that what Pharaoh believed, that he believed. There are deviant sects out there that believe this. They believe that Pharaoh believed. It says it in the ayah, right here. He says, when the state of him drowning reached him, he said what? Amantu. I believe. Is it clear? Everyone of those who have sound belief knows that Pharaoh did not believe. And that the affair, when it became critical, that's when he what? Believed. And we know that Iman, when the affair becomes critical to the point where one is about to die, he's in a state where his life is being threatened, and he returns back to that type of truth. In that moment in time, we know faith does not what? Benefit the individual, especially when the soul is leaving the body. However, we're going to give some other clarification. That in actuality, Pharaoh did not believe. Even though he said it. And there's another statement that he said, we're going to talk about in a minute, clearly showing that he did not actually what? Believe. It was just in a state of where his life was threatened. And he knew that death was imminent. And as a result of it, he embraced, or he said a statement of truth. We're going to talk about that. But at any rate, Al-Muhasibi, that Shaykh al-Islam is citing his statement in this context here, is saying that Al-Gharaq, that the state of him drowning reached him. So he said, what everyone? Amantu, I believe. Right, so that's just one example. Now it's another example. وَقَالَ تَعَالَى حَتَّى نَعْلَمَ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّابِرِينَ. He said there's another ayah that if people don't have proper knowledge, they would extract a very incorrect understanding, as if Allah's knowledge is deficient. What ayah is that? The ayah which is in Surah Muhammad, ayah number 31. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, حَتَّى نَعْلَمْ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّابِرِينَ. He said that we have decreed, of course, the affairs of difficulties for the creation, or very difficult circumstances, or adverse circumstance, meaning stressful times. He says, so we can have, based upon the ayah, what does it say? Na'lam. So we can have knowledge of those who are from the ones who fight in our cause from amongst you, and those who are patient. So it's as if one would extract to say, so we can attain knowledge. So Allah did not know these affairs until he made the difficulties happen. So he wasn't aware of that beforehand until it actually happened. So one would think that it says حَتَّى نَعْلَمَ الْمُجَاهِدِينَ. In order for us to have knowledge of those who truly fight in our cause from amongst you and those who are truly patient. He said, based upon that ayah, for those who did not have proper knowledge of those who the shaitan might come in order to tempt in their minds that there is some doubt there or there's some deficiency in Allah's names and attributes, they would read this ayah, they say what Allah did not know before it happened until He decreed difficulties in people's lives so the matter could become clear of who's who. You understand? You see where I'm going with it? Jay, keep that in mind. طيب. Now he goes on to say, وَقَالَ قَدْ تَأَوَّلَ قَوْمٌ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَنَى أَنْ يُنْجِيَهُ بِبَدَنِهِ مِنَ النَّارِ إِذْ قَدْ آمَنَ عِنْدَ الْغَرَقِ وَقَالُوا إِنَّمَا ذَكَرَ اللَّهُ قَوْمَ فِرْعَوْنَ يَدْخُلُونَ النَّارِ دُونَهُ وَقَالَ فَأَوْرَدَهُمُ النَّارِ وقال وحاق بآل فرعون سوء العذاب ولم يقل بفرعون وقال وهكذا الكذب على الله لأن الله تعالى يقول فأخذه الله نكال الآخرة والأولى وكذلك قوله تعالى فلا يعلمن الله الذين صدقوا فأقر التلاوة على استئناف العلم من الله جل وعز عن أن يستأنف علما بشيء. So this is what we'll go by and dissect it point by point, so we won't fall into some type of discrepancy. We'll move too fast for certain people not to grasp this, understand it. So let's read just what he mentions in this statement here. He said, indeed, there were certain people that misinterpret the ayah. That we just want to go back to the verse about Fir'aun, everyone. Is it clear? He said that some of the people, they say, or they twisted the ayah, or came with a misunderstanding or a distortion in regards to its meaning. He said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ala an yunjiyahu bi badani min an-nar. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He intended for the verse is that He will save Fir'aun by his body from the fire. Hence, that he believed at the time when he was supposed to drown. So we said that was a what? False claim, right everyone? Mm-hmm. We said that was false. وَقَالُوا إِنَّمَا ذَكَرَ اللَّهُ قَوْمَ فِرْعَوْنَ. He said, you'll find that what was intended was the people of Fir'aun entering the hellfire besides him. And then, notice, they also use the evidence. Now listen. He said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Hud that Allah will make all of the family of Pharaoh go to the hellfire. Is it clear? So they're trying to say basically Fir'aun believed and that Fir'aun was what? Saved. Based upon certain verses that was used. Don't worry, we're going to make it clear. It's all clear, trust me. Once I read it, you'll be like, oh, okay. That's the reason why knowledge is very important and that ignorance can lead one down the road of what? Destruction. So let's keep going. So Al-Muhasibi ta'liqa ala al-ayah al-ula. It says, indeed, there were people that distorted the meaning of the verse. Oh, I'm sorry if you want it. Did it cut off? I hope it didn't cut off. Excuse me. Display. Oh, okay, alhamdulillah. That was good. No, we're good. It's Al-Muhasibi said, indeed, there were people that distorted the meaning of the verse. That Allah wanted to save Pharaoh by his physical body from the hellfire. Is that right? Is that right? Is that correct, everyone? No. Now listen. So now they use a verse. They said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when He decreed that Pharaoh drowned. Of course, we know the matter in which Pharaoh had drowned is when he chased after Musa and Bani Israel at that time. And he came within the river being very arrogant. Look to the height and the peak of arrogance of Pharaoh to the point where he witnessed, and his own army witnessed what Allah had did in order to save. The arrogance blinded him so much to the point where he think that what? That he was going to be saved in the midst of all that. That's how arrogant he was. Until the point he's seen it clearly, which is to let you know that Pharaoh has seen the sign of Allah. And what is Allah and what is in the ability of our Lord. He's seen it with his own eyes. How he was so blinded by his arrogance to the point as if he thought that the affair was not going to be decreed for him, where he would be what? Destroyed. Is it clear? So now let's keep going. It says, حَتَّى إِذَا أَدْرَكَهُ الْغَرَقُ, that the estate of him drowning had reached him. He said, I believed. So you'll find that those people who are upon falsehood in this context, they believe, or they extracted from this verse, that his iman was acceptable with Allah. أَنَّ الْإِيمَانَ وَهَذَا الْإِيمَانُ مَقْبُولٌ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ, and that he was saved from the hellfire. And that was incorrect. There's another ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, وَجَاوَزْنَا بِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ الْبَحْرَ فَاتْبَعَهُمْ فِرْعَوْنُ وَجُنُودُهُ بَغْيًا وَعَدْوًا. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we allow Bani Israel to pass the ocean. And we made Fir'aun to follow them and his soldiers out of evil, injustice, or oppression, and out of great enmity, right? Now listen. There's another ayah, everyone, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, now listen to the statement of Fir'aun, of Pharaoh. He says, حَتَّى إِذَا أَدْرَكَهُ الْغَرَقُ قَالَ آمَنْتُ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا الَّذِي آمَنَتْ بِهِ بَنُو إِسْرَائِيلَ. He said, now when he seen that the affair became critical, where his life now was about to be what? Over. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed another ayah explaining the affair. That he said, I believe that none has the right to be worshipped except what Bani Israel believed in. The deity in which the Banu, or the tribe of Israel believed in. So he didn't say, I believe in Allah. وَلَمْ يَقُلْ بِاللَّهِ. He didn't say, آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ. He didn't say, I believe in Allah. What did he say? آمنت بالذي آمنت به بنو إسرائيل. I believe in the one in which Bani Israel believed in. So you'll find that type of statement here. What does that indicate, everyone? That in true reality, he did not what? He didn't believe. Didn't believe in Allah. It says, so the ta'bir, or the statement that was utilized here, or the expression, or the form of expression here, it wasn't in it in which you'll find veneration or praise of Allah. It was still some type of what? Arrogance. Oh, I'm not going to say I believe in Allah. I believe in what so-and-so believe in. That's to let you know how arrogance and belligerence, it can reach the extent to the point where a person still will not what? Seek the truth. I mean, not seek the truth, but they won't fully embrace it. Even though in the back of their mind, they what? They know what is right. They know it's right. Fine. So let's keep going. So it says, as if based upon this ayah, as if Fir'aun كأنه يقول طالما وصلت إلى هذه الدرجة أعلن أني أؤمن بالذي يؤمن به بنو إسرائيل دون أن يقول آمنت بالله ولكن الله لم يقبل منه هذا الإيمان المدعى. He says, you'll find as if Pharaoh was saying, as long as I reach this extent and I reach this degree, I'm just going to now announce that I believe in which Banu Israel believe in, without saying I believe in Allah. So, however, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know, did not accept this claimed faith here. A person would say, is there anything in the book of Allah that's more frank than this ayah? Yes, it is. There's an ayah which is a Surah to Yunus, ayah number 91. If you guys had your books, and y'all wrote books, I'll tell y'all to write this down. There's an ayah where, that's the reason why, like I said, we're trying to get back to education in this regard. But it seemed like, I don't know what it is to get back to what we just ask Allah for aid for the city. But anyway, you'll find in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, so to Yunus, ayah number 91. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, الآن وقد عصيت قبل. Now you believe and you disbelieve from before. You disobeyed from before. Huh? Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayah where it says الآن وقد عصيت من قبل. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعده. طيب. So it says in the ayah, everyone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly revealed the ayah showing that Allah did not accept from Pharaoh what? This claim that he believed now. Allah clearly said in the ayah, Surah Yunus, ayah number 91. It says, الآن وقد عصيت وقد عصيت قبل. Now you believe, now you want to say it, and indeed you were what? You said it, you disobeyed from before. This ayah is frank in what? That Allah did not accept his what? His claim, his claim faith that he said now he now believes. So that ayah clearly shows الآن تعلن بالإيمان. Now you announce your faith. وقد غمرك الماء. Now that the water has flooded you and drowned you. Now that the affair became critical, where your life became threatened, now you want to embrace the truth. Is it clear? Yeah. Now the ayah in its completeness, you'll find that if we mention it, recite it, it says وَقَدْ عَصَيْتَ قَبْلُ وَكُنْتَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. He said, indeed you disobeyed before and you were from the corrupt ones. You were from the ones spreading corruption within the earth, of course. That ayah is frank in what, everyone? That Allah did not what? He did not accept his faith. لم يقبل بل بين الله بأنه لم يؤمن. لأن الوقت ليس وقت الإيمان. الوقت وقت الرحيل. You'll find that the great Imam Muhammad al-Jami rahimahullah, he said about this, he said rather Allah clarified that he did not believe, and that the time here in that moment was not the time of faith. Rather, you'll find that it was the time for what? Exiting and departing from the world. You understand? The time of faith is when your life is not what? It's at its imminent. Now you're about to leave. It's at its imminent death. You understand? Now is the time where you're about to depart from the world. So now all that evil, in order now to save yourself, you want to say so-called I embrace the truth and I'm from those upon correct faith. And like he said, Pharaoh, his affair was different. We're not talking about someone. The person might say, what about the person who's about to die and embrace Islam? That's different. Because prior, that person was what? Ignorant. No. That person didn't know. No. those affairs you'll find, like we said, are different than the person who's what? All knowledgeable of the matter, and despite of that, they were denying out of arrogance. I'm not talking about that person. Pharaoh seen the signs of Allah. He's seen it clearly. The signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from what happened with Musa, and from the signs in regards to when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had allowed the snake to devour the magic of the magicians. Pharaoh seen it. And to the point where the Sahara, the magicians even said there's no way that could have been from magic. That was clear. That had to have been from a greater power. Until they even embraced the truth. And despite of that, Pharaoh still disbelieved. You believed in him before I commanded you. You understand, everyone? The point of the matter is Pharaoh seen the signs of Allah. He seen it clearly. And despite of that, he did not believe until the affair became, as we mentioned, critical. So let's keep going. So he said in regards to al-iman wal-amal al-salih لا يقبل في هذه اللحظة إنما يقبل في وقت الساعة وقت الاختيار. He said that faith and righteous actions is not acceptable in this moment. It's only acceptable in the moment of what? A free choice. Where you had the option. And that if the person believes and by their own accord and work righteousness, of course, not the iman of a person now that's being coerced, and now they're being forced in the corner, of course, where now the affair became detrimental to their so-called salvation or to their so-called success. Rather, you're just doing it in order to just to save yourself. Just to save yourself. By using anything you can. So in this particular moment, as we said, the affair of Pharaoh clearly his claim of faith was rejected. Fine. So that is in regards to let one know that Shaykh al-Islam was mentioning how the understanding of the Quran, it was from a scholar earlier of Tasawwuf. How they were upon the correct affair earlier in order to refute a lot of those who are upon the denial of Allah's names and attributes, and those who are upon grotesque, deviant, perverted understandings of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To the point where you'll find that some of them, especially in the latter part of those who are upon Sufiya, believe that Pharaoh believed. That's how the affair became very dangerous. That some of the people believe that Pharaoh actually embraced proper faith. And you'll find that, like we said, Shaykh al-Islam is using his statement against them to say, this is someone who's upon what you're upon. He's not saying this, and he's actually giving you the proper understanding of what is in the book of Allah in order for one to attain the proper understanding in which Allah wanted those verses to be understood. Right, so let's keep going. So he says, فَالْيَوْمْ نُنَجِّيكَ. Now listen to this. Now that's the first ayah that we mentioned. There's another ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in his book. Now this is to let one know that knowledge is very beneficial, so you can attain the proper understanding, and you cannot be easily impressionable until you be misled by someone that comes with some type of statement. Now see, they'll say there's a verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, for today we will save you by your body. لِتَكُونَ لِمَنْ خَلْفَكَ آيَةً. He said, today we will save you by your body, in order for the one that comes after you, for it to be a learning lesson and a sign for them. What does this mean?
By your body.
What does the ayah mean though? This correct. The ayah is correct. What does it mean? Just to sum it up, to keep it straight to the point, to save time, everyone. Pharaoh died. But where did his body go? His body was thrown up on the beach somewhere. You understand? Was thrown up somewhere, humiliated, and the people seen it. Is it clear? That's the meaning of the verse. You understand? The problem is with people is that they don't study to read to know what is the meaning of the verse, so it can be understood, everyone, properly. So it can be understood properly. So a person now will cut the ayah. A person that follows their desires will come cut the part of the ayah. Usually you'll find in most or excuse me, I shouldn't say most, but in a lot of the verses of people who use ayat in a very perverted way or misunderstood way, you'll find that the same meaning of the ayat, what is correct, is in either in the ayat before or the ayat after it, or it's in the same ayat itself. But however, they just cut up part of it, but didn't read the whole verse. For example, I'll give an example of that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. Right, let's just cut the the part of the ayah. Let's read the last part. We are more closer to Him than His jugular vein. It's sort of Qaf, right? We are more closer to Him than His own jugular vein. So they cut the part of the ayah. So they're thinking that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? Is actually close to your own jugular vein. So Allah is everywhere. Not realizing that the understanding of the ayah is in the first part of it. Indeed, we created mankind and we have knowledge of what His inner self whispers to Him. Which is to let you know that Allah being close to you is close in what? Knowledge. So the verse itself clearly gives you the understanding of the verse when you read the first part of it. You understand, everyone? So that's what people fall. So they will use one part, cut it, or they'll give you the first verse, not realizing that the other ayat either before it or after it, or in the same verse itself, gives you the what? The meaning of the ayat. You understand, everyone? Right. So let's go to the other matter. Let's keep going. So the last part of the verse, notice everyone, it says, now listen to this. So now, we already gave this, alhamdulillah. He said, now you'll find there are people that said that Allah saved His body. We just said that the meaning of the verse is, Pharaoh what? Died. He said the meaning of the ayat is this. The great Imam, he goes on to say, Shaykh Muhammad Aman. He said, بِأَنْ يَرْمِيَهُ الْبَحْرُ عَلَى الشَّاطِئِ فَتُشَاهِدُهُ النَّاسِ هذا فرعون الذي كان يقول أنا ربكم الأعلى الله أكبر الذي يقول ما علمت لكم من إله غيري. Allah wanted to humiliate him in a very humiliating way. Now listen to this. He said, we save you by your body, meaning physically. Whereas the ocean threw him on the beach, his body, in order for the people to witness that this is so-called Fir'aun that said, I am your most highest Lord. So that claim, Allah wanted to show clearly that He's not anyone that is considered the highest Lord. That the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, this is Fir'aun, the one who claimed that he, by his statement, whatever you want, I'm your highest Lord. And the one who claimed in his so-called claim that I don't know anyone that you have a deity other than me. That was the statement of Pharaoh, right, everyone? He said, فَهَذِهِ جُثَّةُ الْحَامِدَةُ الْبَارِدَةُ الْمُهَانَةُ. This is his dead, cold, humiliated body here on the beach. In order for the people to know, لِيَعْلَمَ النَّاسِ أَنَّ الَّذِي لَا يَزُولُ مُلْكُهُ هُوَ اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ. In order to teach the people that the kingdom of the one that never goes away is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. The one that's ever living, that does not die. And this is Pharaoh, and this was his what? Final outcome. بعد تلك الدعوة الطويلة العريضة بأنه إله. After his so-called vast, wide call that he claims that he was a what? Deity. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala humiliated him in a way in which, like we said, he died, but Allah allowed his body to be preserved in order to be thrown, in order for the people to say, in order for to teach the people that this is the final outcome and the consequence of the one who now thinks that he's above his level or above to the point where he's reached the level of Allah. This is what happens. So the proper meaning of the verse is what, everyone? The proper meaning of the verse is that Pharaoh was humiliated still after he died, in which Allah allowed his body to be thrown up on the beach, not the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what everyone, saved him from the fire. Is it clear? No. Now, what about the claim as it says, oh, it was his family? That's another ayah. Let's read this quickly, we'll stop. He says, hence, النجاة ليس أنه ينجو من النار لأنه كافر كفرا لم يكفر أحد مثله ولكن نجاته المراد بالنجاة إن ترمى جثته خارج الماء. We already talked about that. So let's keep going. He said, what you'll find that some of the people falsely interpret the verse by saying that it was the family of Pharaoh. And it says in the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He made them to enter the fire. فَأَوْرَدَهُمُ النَّارِ, meaning the family. And there is an ayah where Allah says in Surah Ghafir, وَحَاقَ بِآلِ فِرْعَوْنَ سُوءُ الْعَذَابِ, that encompass Fir'aun, of course, the family of Fir'aun, an evil punishment. So Allah in this ayah, in Surah Ghafir, didn't mention Fir'aun, it mentioned his family. Right, everyone? Fine, so what is the ayah? There's an ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in his book that Pharaoh will be the one leading them to the fire. That he will be at the forefront of those who he misled. And that's the ayah that we'll talk about, like we said, next class, inshallah. Where it says, for example, matter of fact, let's just read it quickly. Then we'll stop. It says, وَهُوَ دَاخِلٌ. There's an ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, أَنَّ الْقَائِلِ. Well, let's read the statement first completely so everyone can have the proper context. أَنَّ الْقَائِلِ بِأَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِنَ النَّارِ استدلوا بالآية الآتية ومنها أنهم يدخلون النار دونه وقال فأوردهم النار. He said, you'll find that they use a verse in the book of Allah, and from that is that they will enter the fire. This is their claim, that Pharaoh or the family of Pharaoh will enter it. So the name wasn't mentioned, Pharaoh. That the ayah is Surah Hud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَأَوْرَدَهُمُ النَّارِ. He will make all of them enter the fire. And they use the ayah that indeed the family of Pharaoh will be encompassed by an evil punishment. So he'll say, Allah didn't mention the name Pharaoh. So what we will say is this: وَهُوَ دَاخِلُ الدُّخُولَ الْأَوَّلِيًّا فِي آلِ فِرْعَوْنَ لِأَنَّهُ رَئِيسُهُمْ. He said, however, when the family of Pharaoh is mentioned, you pray 2 rakats. He said, for you'll find that the ayah or the verse, it says that the family of Pharaoh will what? Enter. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, even though He did not specify the name Pharaoh, but He enters in it first. Why? Because he was their leader. He was their leader. And he will be at the forefront leading them into the hellfire. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. وَحَاقَ بِآلِ فِرْعَوْنَ. He said, why everyone? Because in the verse, what does it say? The family of who? Pharaoh. So even though it says they will enter the fire, Pharaoh is at the forefront of them being their what? Their leader. Clearly it says it in the verse. The family of who? Pharaoh. To let you know that he's the one that will be leading them. He says, and he's the one that was followed. He's not the one that was following. The followers, what would come to sense that when a person hears followers, who is more appropriate is going to get the first part of the punishment? The leader. It's a no-brainer. If you have followers, the person that misled them is one who's going to be what? Leading them. So that's basically what he's saying here. He said you got followers, and then like we said, the leader is the one that's going to what? Firstly, it was the most important man that's going to enter in the what? That punishment in that fire. He says, وَإِنَّمَا وَرَدُوا النَّارِ وَإِنَّمَا عُذِّبُوا تَابِعِينَ لَهُ. Verily, they will enter the fire. They will be punished following him, just as they followed him in disbelief. تَبِعُوهُ فِي دُخُولِ النَّارِ. They followed him just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it, as Pharaoh was in the dunya, where he misled them. Likewise in the hereafter, the same thing in the dunya will be on the day of resurrection, where he'll be also what? Leading them to hell. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. وَلَا تَدُلُّ الْآيَتَانِ عَلَى نَجَاتِهِ. So all the two verses that we previously mentioned does not indicate he was saved. Rather, خصوصا إذا فهمنا معنى الآية السابقة. He said rather specifically, he said if we have now attained the right understanding of the verse, the affair is what? Clear. So you'll find that these verses or rather these explanations, were made by an individual named Muhasibi. This is all his statements. That Shaykh al-Islam is mentioning them in his book, Hamawiyyah, to let one know that those who are upon the early ways of Sufiya of the past, that they were not upon what the Sufis are of today. And it's clearly establishing that these affairs, in his book that he wrote entitled Understanding the Quran, clearly showed, and it was utilized as a refutation against those who are upon the atrocities of Sufi of today. To show them and say, this is your own scholar, who is from your establishers and who you highly held in high esteem and revered. And despite of that, you'll find clearly in his statements that what you're upon is totally in opposition to what he's saying. And this is your own scholar. And he has the understanding of what we're upon, that these verses need to be understood in this manner and in this way, in order for the people to not be what? Misled and confused. Can you imagine a Muslim now coming to Islam, embracing Islam, and someone really telling them to their face, Pharaoh believed? They'll be like, what? So that's what we're saying. The affairs of innovated beliefs are the most dangerous of affairs because it renders you in a state of doubt. The affairs of state of doubt is from the most vital and most detrimental to one's faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be met in a manner where a person has surety. Doesn't want to meet Allah and he's wavering, or he has some type of discrepancy in his belief, especially in the verses.
Firm foundation. Exactly.
So you'll find that the Muslims now that come to the religion and hear these type of statements, they're susceptible now to what? Apostate, or they're susceptible to be very weak in their faith, based upon the atrocities of those who take these warped understandings and teach them to the Muslims to the point where they actually believe that some type of individual who is upon great evil and corrupt ways actually what? Believed. And that his affair was what? His affair and outcome was good and righteous. Those matters are very dangerous. So you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam is saying, see, look, this is what Muhasibi is saying here. He's saying this, and he wrote a book in this regard. For those who believe the nonsense of Pharaoh believing and being from the believers, you'll find that he clearly wrote a book clarifying that these matters are what? All atrocities and all unacceptable. So let's keep going. And I'm going to read this final paragraph and we'll stop. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam was citing Muhasibi here in this context. He's saying, وَهَكَذَا الْكَذِبُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. Muhasibi said this. He said, like this, you'll find people lie upon Allah. الَّذِينَ فَسَّرُوا الْآيَةِ بِهَذَا التَّفْسِيرِ. You see, you'll find that they explained the ayah by this type of explanation, claiming that Pharaoh was saved from the hellfire, or claiming that Pharaoh did not enter the hellfire, lying upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Lying on Allah. إذا تعمد هذا المفسر هذا المعنى الفاسد قد يكون مخدوعا ومقلدا لغيره. If you'll find that a person purposely gives this explanation with this type of corrupt meaning or this corrupt interpretation, either that individual has been duped or tricked, or he's blind following someone else. He did not understand the true reality or the true meaning of this ayah. He said, لا يكون كذبا يؤاخذ عليه ولكنه خطأ. He said that person, of course, in this instance, if they're ignorant and they just, like we said, been tricked or they've been misled by another evil individual, then even though it's a lie upon Allah, for that one specifically, he's not held what? In that case where we say he has fallen to kufr, even though it was still in itself something that was egregious and grave. Is it clear? He said not held accountable for that in that particular instance. However, we still say it's a what? It's a mistake. It's a mistake and it's not acceptable. وكونه كذب لا بد من التفصيل. وليس كل من أخطأ يوصف بأنه كذب أو كذب على الله. قد يكذب على الله من يتعمد ذلك ويتعمد التحريف. وقد يقع في هذا التحريف وفي هذا الخطأ من لا يقصد الكذب على الله ولكنه تبع من قبله هذا كثير. He said, for that person, like we said in this instance, the ignorant one who's been misled by some evil people who ascribe to knowledge. He said, in that particular instance, we say that that's a what? Mistake. Because this individual, and the likes of those, of course, here, we're talking about this type of person, not the person who knows. He He said, not everyone that describes or is ascribed that they lied upon Allah, that they purposely lie upon Allah. And we just gave an example of that. Or they purposely try to distort the meaning. However, they fall into that distortion and this type of mistake. The one who does not intend to lie upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, he followed someone from before him. And someone that misled him. And someone that affected him. Until the point where they made this claim. But at the same time, we still say it's what? It's incorrect. And it's binding upon the people to stay away from that belief. Is it clear? Like we said, but there is people out there that on purpose distort the meanings of the book of Allah. Their situation is different. And their situation is severe. We're talking about the person now that comes not knowing anything else other than what their so-called evil scholar taught them, and them just mimicking it like a what? Like a parrot. Like a parrot. You understand, everyone? So that person, like we said, is dealt with in a certain manner, but where it's only for people of knowledge to handle it. You understand, everyone? Because even though this person is ignorant, they still can have some type of decorated speech. And whereas any individual that try to correct them, they can probably affect them. Even though they know that they're wrong, but you're not equipped with the proper tools of knowledge, and you're not well versed. Nor do you have the proper knowledge to help that individual be enlightened in his mistake that he fell into. So those affairs are very critical, and one needs to be very careful. The people that embark upon the mission of clarification, especially people who fell into these type of mistakes, are those who are well equipped to know how to convey it. They are well versed. They have the verses from the Kitab and Sunnah in order to refute this type of falsehood, in order to rebuttal this type of clarification. Because not everyone is well versed for that matter, nor are they well, if you want to say, qualified for those type of matters. So is it clear, everyone? No. Jay, so we'll stop here. Don't forget, everyone, that sitting in the circles of knowledge, everyone, I keep reminding, Shaitan seems like he makes the people forget very quickly. All you have to do is sit in the class and you get the reward of Umrah and Hajj. Who doesn't want that? You don't get that at being outside. You get that being in the class, sitting. Don't you want a reward of Umrah and Hajj? By just coming to a class and sitting and learning? You get to sit and look how Shaitan just keeps you a door away from it. To busy you with something, and it's right in front of your face. All you have to do is take steps, sit, have the right intention, have a reward of Umrah and Hajj.
Such a beautiful reward.
You understand, everyone? We talked about this, we keep reminding everyone. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is in Tabarani, in his Musnad, بإسناد لا بأس به من غدا إلى المسجد لا يريد إلا يتعلم خيرا ويعلمه كان له كأجر حاج تام حجته. Says whoever goes to the masjid, they don't want except to learn good or teach good. He will have a reward similar to Hajj, person performing Hajj. That is, Hajj is complete. There's another narration that says Umrah. Is it clear? No. Just by merely sitting in a class and having a proper intention to either what? To either learn good or what? Teach it. So don't forget about those matters, everyone. Shaitan is very, very adamant to make the people busy themselves with something that could be, it can wait. Something that could probably wait. Or he knows that something is beneficial for you, but he busies yourself with something else that's less beneficial. Might have a little benefit in it, but you could be busy yourself with something more what? Beneficial. So he always tries to get some type of portion of your righteous actions. So you can have some type of affair to busy yourself with. So don't forget about that, everyone. Just a reminder for all of us, because we live in times where Shaitan, his voice is being pumped everywhere. In so many ways. To get us distracted from what is the most beneficial ways to be a means for our salvation in this world as well as the hereafter. But we'll stop here. So everyone, any questions about the class? Was it clear? طيب, we'll stop here. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.